If you're one of my listeners who runs to the fridge or the pantry at the first sign of a bad mood, you'll want to listen carefully to our coaching session today called Name That Mood So You Don't Go to Food. Hello, my friend. You're listening to Weight Loss Made Real, and this is episode 268. I'm your host, Master Weight Loss Coach and author, Cookie Rosenblum. Today and every Tuesday, I am your coach and your guide to help you stop overeating so that you can enjoy permanent weight loss and freedom from the whole struggle. If you just found me, welcome. And if you're a regular listener, welcome back. If you are smart and busy and have a pretty good life, but you're baffled about why you just can't stop overeating, you have come to the right place. This is where coaching meets psychology and psychology meets brain science. This is where your overeating ends and your freedom begins. Welcome to your coaching session for today. Here's what we're going to talk about today. You're going to learn how to identify what you're feeling and understand why it's so important to be able to do that. You'll understand what a mood actually is and where your moods come from. I'll show you why you might be in the habit of avoiding an uncomfortable mood by eating more than you need, even and especially when you're not hungry. You'll learn why moods are important and why it helps to be able to name them accurately. And finally, I'm going to give you a short exercise for the week so you can begin to master this skill. It's a valuable skill, and that's why we're talking about it. What is a mood? You might think of a mood as a feeling or an emotion. It's what we feel, what we experience in our body. It's a way of feeling or thinking. When I say body, we feel it in our body. I do not mean a true physical sensation, like feeling tired or feeling cold in your body. I mean that you might have a thought, and the mood that you create from that thought might be sadness or excitement, and you experience that sadness or excitement in your being, in your body. So we all have different moods, and our own moods change from day to day and even multiple times a day. Where do your moods come from? Well, you think a thought, and that thought, that perception, that image in your mind creates an emotion for you. Imagine that you think about yourself winning an award. Just thinking about that may conjure up or create the feeling of joy or excitement. And then your brain likes the good feelings that you're creating. So now you start imagining yourself telling your friends and family all about that imagined award that you just won. And by doing that, you create feelings, emotions of pride. Now remember, you didn't actually win anything, you just thought about it. But your thinking is what creates your mood. And on any given day, many, many thoughts will come into your mind, all kinds of thoughts. And any of them that you spend time focusing on will create a mood, a feeling, an emotion that matches the thought. So you understand now that all of your moods come from thoughts that you think and give attention to. Not all of your thoughts, because we wouldn't be able to function in any sort of healthy way if we created moods from all of our thoughts, because we have thousands a day. Just the few that we favor, and then we put them on repeat over and over again. If you're the one who creates your moods, why might you do anything to avoid a mood? What we're talking about here is one of the reasons you might be overeating. You might overeat from habit, and you might overeat when you're feeling things that don't feel so good. Either way, you're eating when you're not hungry, all because you had a feeling. It might even be a positive feeling that leads you to eat more than you need. And here are some of the reasons you might eat when you're in a certain mood. It might be the fear of not being able to handle the feeling. You feel it coming on. It gives you the message that these thoughts aren't pleasant and you don't want to go there. You don't know what you'll do with it. You might fear that the feeling's going to last forever. You've probably heard me say that when we allow ourselves to feel our feelings, they pass. It's when we block and fight and resist them that they hang around longer. It might feel like a fear that you won't be able to get through the feeling, that maybe you'll lose your composure and cry or scream or act out in a way that feels out of control to you. You might fear that this kind of feeling that you don't like is going to overcome you. It's uncomfortable, and I don't blame you. You don't want to be uncomfortable. So with all these thoughts about your negative emotions, it's no wonder you want to escape them. Another reason you might want to escape those negative emotions is that you think you should always be happy. So any negative feeling leads you to run away. And if you eat from certain moods, you know that the act of eating will temporarily distract you from whatever you're feeling. So you know what it can feel like and where it will come from. But now let's look at the reality of what a mood can actually do. Your emotions are what lead you to your actions, what you do, whatever you do when you feel a certain feeling. If you like your mood and it feels good, it will lead to a positive feeling and a positive action. If it's an uncomfortable or negative emotion or mood, it's going to drive you to take an unhelpful action. Here are some examples. You wake up and you think, I have such a good life. I feel so lucky. And when you think those thoughts, you feel blessed, you feel joyful. So that day, or at least for part of it, your actions are probably going to follow those feelings and also be positive. You'll want to do things that feel good and create good outcomes because you feel so good to start with. But what if you wake up and think, oh, I have so much to do today. I can't handle it. This kind of thought creates a feeling that you're probably familiar with, like overwhelm, being overwhelmed. When you're overwhelmed, you might go to food because it's just so uncomfortable. But here's an interesting point. Most of the time, we just think something, and we don't really pinpoint what we're thinking. And yet that thought that we're not paying attention to and naming still creates a feeling, a mood. And then you don't name what you're feeling, so you just feel kind of negative and vague. You can't point to exactly what you're feeling and understand why you feel so bad. This multiplies the negative feeling. No wonder you want to escape in a way that's fast and easy, by eating. And whenever you eat and it's not driven by physical hunger, definitely it is food that you don't need in that moment. What happens to that extra food? You know, it's stored on your body. So now you have feelings you don't like, which come back as soon as you've finished eating. And you've also either maintained extra weight that you don't want, or you've added more weight to your body, which you definitely don't want, all from being unaware of what your mind is doing. Now, here's the reality of what happens with all these feelings that you're creating. You need to know that you're always in charge of you, even if you think you're out of control. You can't control all the thoughts that pop into your mind, but you can learn to stand back and see what's going on in your head and decide whether to give certain thoughts focus and attention. You could see the path that your thoughts and feelings are leading to. If you like that path, you're good. Those are thoughts you do want to follow and enjoy. But if you don't, you need to see what's going on and know that this path from a negative thought is unpleasant, but it's just part of being human. If your thoughts and feelings lead you to discomfort that you'd like to escape with food, this is your habit. There are other options for you to choose once you start looking clearly at what's going on in your mind. Think about what you wish for yourself. Do you secretly, or not so secretly, wish and expect to be happy all the time? Or let's say you understand and you've heard me say this and you know it's just not possible, right? No one's happy all the time. But if you can't avoid some emotions, where do you put them? Should you always try to change a negative emotion to a positive one? The simple answer is no. You can look backwards and explore why you're feeling a certain emotion, what you were thinking right before you felt that feeling. When you become aware of what you're thinking and feeling, they're less threatening to you. You're still probably not going to like the negative ones, but you're less likely to feel like you need a quick escape by eating. What if you rode the wave of all of your emotions? What if you just allowed yourself to feel what you're feeling? Allowing your emotions, something we work on all the time in the Freedom Group, doesn't mean that you feel them and then you act on them. It doesn't mean that you run and hide from them. And it also doesn't mean that you need to eat from them. It just means you need to feel them and notice them. And here's the step that I want you to take once you understand your feelings. I want you to name them. Yes, I want you to name what you're feeling with one word. What happens when you name your feelings? Well, you take a step backward and you see what's going on in your mind. You see yourself having thoughts. You see yourself creating feelings. You see yourself having a mind that's doing what it thinks you need. You see clearly where these feelings come from. And of course, that is your thinking. And then you can relax because you see the progression your thoughts and your moods take, even if your feelings are unpleasant. You take the fear and the worry and the anxiety out of strong emotions when you name them. And you can say, I am a woman having a thought that's creating the feeling of blank, anxiety or fear or worry or happiness. Fill in that blank. Most of you, if I sat with you and asked you what you were feeling right now, would say some of the most common emotions, like happy or sad or afraid or angry. But the more clarity you could have about what you're feeling, the more you will see your up and down moods as just a normal part of being a human being who has thoughts. And those thoughts create feelings. So to get clarity and see what's happening in your mind, I want you to experiment with naming some nuanced moods. Think about how many variations you could think for the feeling of happy, like thrilled and excited or joyful and glad. Think about a feeling of sad. You can use other words for sad that are more specific to you, like depressed, pessimistic, sorrowful, grieving, powerless. And what about anger? What about feeling mad? You might feel down more specifically, or bitter, or mad, or aggressive, or frustrated. And what about fearful? We might get more specific if you think about words like weak, insecure, anxious, terrified, worried, overwhelmed, insignificant, excluded. So you're understanding today why you feel what you feel. You can see how your thinking leads to your feelings, right? You can see how some feelings will make you want to escape quickly. And you'll see how that escape route might include eating to distract yourself from those feelings. And I know that these are habits that you'd like to leave behind. The key is knowing how to accept all of your moods. And it starts with being able to name them. Remind yourself that you created them. Understand that a feeling is just a minute vibration that passes through you if you don't resist it or fight it. The feeling might be uncomfortable, but it can't truly harm you. And the better you get at feeling all the ups and downs of so many emotions, the better you'll get at experiencing being a human and stop unrealistically expecting your life to be all flowers and rainbows and sweetness. Naming your moods will give you understanding in that moment and the space to not react, but to decide what you want to do next, mindfully. So you'll see that eating from a mood instead of from hunger, you'll suddenly realize that it's optional. You will no longer feel like you have no choice. Are you ready to accept the challenge of naming your mood so you don't go to food? I hope you are. And this is what I want you to do this week. Pick one day, just one day, and set a timer so that 3 times that day you pause and ask yourself, what do I feel right now? What is my mood? And name it with just one word. Allow the feeling of pride that you're learning how your mind works and putting yourself back in charge of you and your eating. Allow that pride to rise up in you and enjoy it. Whatever that feeling is, just feel it and know that it's just a result of your thinking. And here's what it would look like. I feel like eating, if you do, because I am feeling worried. But I know that I feel this because I'm thinking worrisome thoughts. We can work on what to do next with those thoughts in the Freedom Group. But for now, you should feel some relief just by naming your feelings. This is your first step. Okay, my friend, you know what you're going to think about and do this week. Don't forget to grab a free downloadable copy of my book, Clearing Your Path to Permanent Weight Loss, so that you could better understand why you're overeating and you could stop. weightlossmadereal.com/gift, or the link is in the show notes. I hope to see you back here next week, where we'll continue to work on your overeating until it becomes something that you used to do. Won't that feel good? We know that's your ultimate goal. So for now, this is your coach, Cookie, reminding you that as you search for answers, keep it real, just like you. And I'll see you next week.